On our wedding anniversary, my wife, Khloe, invited me to the Chanel show in Paris. The moment I stepped into the venue, a young man punched me in the face. I swung back, but Khloe stopped me. She insisted he must have mistaken me for someone else and told me to just take it, to not make a scene and break the rules of an international event. A little while later, I stumbled upon that same young man trapping Khloe in his arms that he was whispering in her ear. "Thank you, Khloe, for bringing me to Paris for the show, and for giving me a chance to test my nerve by taking a swing at your husband. I'll work hard to pay you back, my amazing CEO." I knew instantly who he was. I walked over slowly and shoved Khloe aside. As she stared in shock, I returned the favor to the man beside her, doubling the interest. Khloe fell to the floor, and blood trickled from the man's lip. I pulled a wet wipe from my pocket to clean my knuckles, then glanced up at him. "You're Khloe's new assistant, Aiden Reed, right?" Aiden's face flushed with embarrassment. He helped Khloe up, his lips pressed into a thin line, a silent admission. Khloe pulled Aiden behind her, shielding him. "Leo, don't give him a hard time. It was my idea to bring him here to get some experience, to build his confidence." I stared at her, my voice flat. "First, I'm hearing of a training program where the employee practices by assaulting the boss's husband." Khloe's eyes turned cold. "Aiden had never seen you before. He didn't know you were my husband. He thought you were some creep hitting on me and acted on impulse. You're 8 years older than him, Leo. You shouldn't be so petty with a kid who just graduated from college." Even she seemed to know how weak the excuse sounded. Her gaze flickered away from mine. A humorless laugh escaped my lips. As her assistant, he surely must have known that today is our wedding anniversary, right? On her anniversary, who else would be showing up with her besides her husband? Another man. Besides, even if I was some guy hitting on the boss, is it an assistant's job to play bodyguard? Khloe was speechless, but she still shielded Aiden, not moving an inch closer to me. This trip to Paris was something Khloe had planned for months. She wanted to do some market research and celebrate our 3rd anniversary. But just before we were supposed to leave, she called me. She said her new assistant, Aiden, had messed up and forgotten to book my plane ticket. Since she couldn't delay the research trip, she had to go ahead without me. But, she said, she had personally booked me a first-class seat for a flight 2 days later. I'm not one to sweat the small stuff. A 2-day delay wouldn't stop us from celebrating our anniversary, so I let it go. What she never told me was that on her original flight, Aiden was the one sitting next to her. Neither Khloe nor Aiden said a word. The scene froze like a paused movie. I decided to cut through the silence. "Khloe, it's starting to look like your assistant didn't just forget to book my ticket." I shot a dark look at Aiden. "He did it on purpose." Aiden frantically shook his head, denying it. Khloe, however, just stared at me coldly and started accusing me of having no class. She said I was being petty, that I'd been looking for a reason to go after Aiden from the start. She warned me not to stand there and assassinate their character with my cheap insinuations. Hearing this, Aiden turned to Khloe, his voice trembling with manufactured fear. "Khloe, I've never even met Mr. Vance before. Why would he want to cause trouble for me?" Then, without waiting for an answer, he turned to me and began to bow his head dramatically. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Vance. I don't know what I did to offend you, but since I've clearly made you unhappy, I must apologize. If a bow isn't enough, I can get on my knees." With that, his eyes reddened as he started to bend his knees. I watched his seamless performance and couldn't help but sneer. "Aiden, could you be any more disgusting?" Khloe's eyelid twitched. She bent down and pulled Aiden up before he could complete his act. Then, she erupted. "That's enough, Leo. Do you have to bully a recent college grad just to get your kicks? Have you forgotten what it was like when you were starting out, how your first boss treated you? It's unbelievable how quickly you forget the pain once the scars have healed." My heart stuttered. For Aiden, she was willing to rip open my oldest wounds. She took Aiden's hand and started to leave. He stopped her, telling her to wait a moment. He went to get a cloth, knelt on the floor, and began carefully wiping a smudge of dirt from her pants. As he did this, Khloe seemed to regain a sliver of composure. She lowered her voice, a slight cajoling tone creeping in. "Leo, apologize to Aiden, and we can go back inside and watch the rest of the show." Aiden's hand paused for a second. I watched them with a detached nonchalance, as if they were two strangers I couldn't care less about. I was satisfied with how I'd handled the punch. An apology was out of the question. My indifference infuriated Khloe. She took Aiden and walked away, disappearing from my sight without a backward glance. Just like that, she left me alone at a fashion show in a foreign country. She didn't even wait for me to tell her the news I'd just received, a suspected diagnosis of stomach cancer. Watching their two figures clinging to each other as they walked away, a thought crossed my mind. I should probably take back what I'd said to her earlier. The man showing up with her on her wedding anniversary didn't have to be her husband. It could also be a young, handsome male assistant. I sat through the rest of the show by myself. Back at the hotel, I changed my flight, took a shower, and went to bed. Khloe didn't come back that night. The next day, just as I was about to board my flight, she finally called. I didn't answer. I just turned my phone off. When I landed, I had over a dozen texts from Khloe, all demanding to know why I had left without a word. Not a single one offered an explanation for why she had stayed out all night. I didn't reply. The first thing I did when I got home was draft a divorce agreement. But I knew, deep down, that this divorce wasn't going to be easy. Khloe and I were together for 7 years before we got married. In those 7 years, we survived on ramen noodles and sometimes slept in our car. I once lived on canned beans for a whole month just to buy her a decent dress for a networking event. I even had to fend off the advances of a female boss at a part-time job. It was because of those struggles that Khloe always had a soft spot for young employees just starting out. But the hardships were worth it. When the new media boom hit, we caught the wave. In just 1 year, our company's valuation hit nearly $10 million. The day we officially incorporated, Khloe said yes to my proposal. Because most of our employees were women, I decided to take a backseat role after we got married. To show her good faith, Khloe signed over a majority of her founders' shares to my name, making them mine, free and clear. When did I first notice something was wrong with Khloe? It was probably a few weeks ago. An old-timer at the company mentioned to me that Khloe had hired a male assistant 2 months prior. The rumor was he was young, handsome, and a scholarship kid from a prestigious university. I felt a knot in my stomach. When Khloe got home that night, I asked her why she hadn't told me sooner. She'd had a few drinks and was taking off her makeup. Why would I need to report hiring an assistant? She said, frowning at me in the mirror. He's clumsy and timid, always apologizing for everything. I only hired him because Sarah Jenkins pushed him on me. I never would have picked someone like that myself. Sarah was one of Khloe's business partners. Khloe was usually very measured when talking about employees. Her unusual agitation made me uneasy. I hung up her coat for her and asked quietly, "So, you're saying Sarah and this young assistant are close?" Khloe snatched the towel from my hand, her temper flaring. "Leo, when did you become such a gossip? Is your head really filled with nothing but this kind of garbage?" She shot me a look of disgust, stormed into the bathroom, and slammed the door shut. I stood there stunned. A gut feeling told me our marriage was probably over. Khloe returned from Paris 3 days later. She didn't come home. Instead, she sent Aiden to the apartment to pick up a change of clothes for her. I handed him the packed suitcase. The young man smirked, his face a mask of smug triumph. "Don't you worry, Mr. Vance. Khloe's crashing at my place, catching up on sleep. I'll take good care of her." He started to leave with the suitcase, then stopped. "Oh, right. Khloe mentioned she's craving that beef Wellington you make. She said I should ask you for the recipe." He stared at my face, clearly hoping to savor the taste of my anger. The old me would have taught him a lesson in respect, right then and there. But now, my heart was a placid lake, without a single ripple of emotion. "Sure," I said, pulling out my phone and getting his number. My lack of reaction seemed to surprise Aiden. He glanced back twice as he walked out the door. After he was gone, I remembered the divorce agreement I'd forgotten to give him. I had to make the trip myself. When I got to the office, Khloe's executive assistant, Rachel Dawson, rushed over to me. "Leo, what are you doing here? Khloe isn't in right now. Where's Aiden?" Rachel looked uncomfortable. "He's not here either." I smiled. "It's fine. I'm just dropping something off for Khloe." I went to Khloe's office. The moment I walked in, I saw it had been completely transformed. Her sleek, minimalist desk was now cluttered with a collection of bare brick figures. On the coffee table sat a pair of cartoonish matching mugs. Even the cushions on the business-like sofa had been replaced with loud, graphic bare brick patterns. I didn't have to guess. This was all Aiden's doing. It was tacky and out of place, but it was an unmistakable declaration of ownership. Rachel looked mortified. Leo, this. I scanned the room. A change of pace could be nice, I guess. I sat down at Khloe's desk and entered the code for her personal safe. It clicked open. I placed the divorce agreement inside and told Rachel to remind Khloe to deal with it as soon as possible. Then I left. I wandered aimlessly for a couple of hours before heading home. When I got back, I saw a new post on Aiden's Instagram. It was a photo of a rather sad-looking, slightly burnt beef Wellington. The caption read, "First attempt. Almost burned it, but my amazing so didn't mind. She ate every last bite. Thank you for being so patient with your clumsy assistant." The photo was heavily filtered. Khloe had liked it. I silently liked it too. A sharp pain flared in my stomach. I drank a glass of hot water and put my phone on silent. I curled up on the sofa and, at some point, fell asleep. I was jolted awake by the violent slam of the front door. I opened my eyes to see Khloe, soaking wet, bursting into the room without even taking off her shoes. I glanced out the window. The sky was clear, studded with stars. It wasn't raining. I was wondering why she was so drenched when she yanked me up from the sofa. "Leo, how can you be so vicious? I'm gone for a few days, and all I wanted was a taste of home, of beef Wellington. You wouldn't make it for me, so he learned how. He doesn't know how to cook." He struggled and fumbled and burned his hands in 3 different places making it for me. And what do? You get jealous. You pretend to teach him how to cook just so you can get his contact info and stalk his Instagram. What was that passive-aggressive supposed to mean? Why not just come out and call him a homewrecker? He's just a kid who's barely started his career. He's so sensitive. You push him so far he tried to jump off a bridge tonight. If I hadn't gotten there in time, he would be dead. So that was it. She was soaked because she'd been playing the hero, saving the damsel in distress. The barrage of accusations made my head spin. A wave of dizziness washed over me, my stomach churned, and I threw up right there on the floor. Khloe froze. I scrambled to the bathroom and heaved over the toilet for what felt like an eternity, until nothing but bitter bile came up. I collapsed onto the cold tiles, completely drained. Khloe leaned against the doorframe, unmoving. She tossed a towel at me with a look of disgust. "How old are you? Still pretending to be sick like a little kid to avoid taking responsibility. Leo, you're really losing your class." I grabbed the towel and saw the old scar on my hand. My cooking skills didn't come from nowhere. I'd gotten that burn learning to make beef Wellington for her. At the time, Khloe had been so worried she'd almost cried. She changed the dressing herself every day and wouldn't let me get it wet. But now, her memory, like my scar, had faded and healed over completely. I pulled myself up and rinsed my mouth. My voice was raw. "Khloe, when did I ever refuse to cook for you? You're the one who refused to come home. We'd stumbled along for 10 years together. It wasn't the first time we'd fought, but every other time, she would be the one to offer a kiss and make peace. Then I would make a beef Wellington, and by the end of the meal, we'd be fine again. But tonight, she was relentless. Leo, if you had just apologized to Aiden earlier, why wouldn't I have come home? Now get dressed. We're going to the hospital, and you're going to tell him you're sorry." I shot back. "And if I don't? Khloe, you're my wife. You're eating dinner made by another man, showing it off on social media. And now you want me to apologize to him because I like to post. If I do apologize, what exactly should I say? Go on, Khloe. Why don't you coach me?" She was at a loss for words. I watched her conflicted expression, my hand pressed against my spasming stomach, my body trembling. Her voice, cold and contemptuous, cut through the air again. "Leo, are you ever going to let this go?" I couldn't hold back the fire inside me anymore. I swung my hand and slapped her hard, across the face. "Khloe, get out." In the early years of building the company, we were always on the move, never eating or sleeping well. We were terrified of getting sick. Sickness meant missing work. More importantly, it meant spending money. Back then, if I so much as coughed, she would immediately bring me a glass of hot water and wake up countless times during the night to feel my forehead. But now, as I stood there sweating from the pain in my stomach, she thought I was putting on an act. When I came back to my senses, Khloe was gone. I vaguely remembered her phone ringing, a call from the hospital, I think, saying Aiden was awake. Otherwise, she never would have left so quietly after I'd slapped her. As I cleaned up the mess on the floor, I thought to myself that it was good Aiden was awake. At least I wouldn't have his death on my conscience. But I rubbed my stomach. My own life, it seemed, had already been forsaken by Khloe. The next day, I went to the hospital alone. While waiting in line, I saw another new post from Aiden. He was pictured lying in a hospital bed, his face pale. A delicate white hand was feeding him soup. On that hand was our wedding ring. The caption, "My CEO says there's no better way to learn how to cherish something than to almost lose it. You're the reason I feel tethered to this world. Thank you, my CEO." This time, I didn't like the post. I had learned my lesson. A nurse called my name for the endoscopy. When the anesthesiologist asked for a family member's signature on the consent form, I took the pen and signed my own name. He frowned. "Where's your family? This is a serious procedure. Shouldn't someone be with you?" I forced a tight smile. "My family is all dead." The doctor's expression shifted from confusion to awkward sympathy. "Oh, I'm sorry for your loss." The procedure was quick. Thanks to the anesthesia, I didn't feel a thing. I rested in the recovery area for a while. Just as I was about to leave, the medication wore off, and the discomfort in my stomach returned. I instinctively hunched over, wanting nothing more than to get home. I had just reached the first-floor lobby when I ran right into Khloe. When she saw me, a flicker of satisfaction crossed her cold features. "So you came to your senses? Decided to come apologize to Aiden?" I weakly pushed her hand away. "I'm not here to apologize." "Khloe, didn't Rachel tell you? I left a document for you in the office safe. Did you even look at it?" She scoffed. "Rachel mentioned it, but I didn't bother. What important document could you possibly have? It was just an excuse to come to the office and check up on me. You knew I wasn't there, yet you specifically asked where Aiden was. What message were you trying to send to the staff?" "Leo, I never knew you were so calculating. You've really disappointed me." With that, she grabbed my arm again, her grip like steel. "If you're not here to apologize, then what are you doing at the hospital?" I stared at her. "What I'm doing is none of your business." She frowned, thinking, then her eyes widened. "Leo, you've already been to Aiden's room, haven't you? What did you say to him this time? What did you do?" Her face was a mask of panic, terrified that I might have hurt her precious boy. Disappointment washed over me like a tidal wave. My voice was mechanical. "The document I left in your safe was a divorce agreement. Khloe, let's get a divorce." Khloe froze for a second before a cold smile spread across her face. "Leo, what kind of game is this? Pushing me away so I'll pull you closer? That's not your style. If you really wanted a divorce, you would have burned the world down first." She was right. I was not a man who suffered in silence. Years ago, that female boss who couldn't seduce me tried to drug me instead. I fought it off, didn't lay a finger on her, but I smashed up her office and took a video of her in a compromised position. I used that video to get $100,000 from her and Khloe, and I used that money as the seed capital for our entire company. But Khloe didn't understand. The battlefield of love is not the same as the one for fame and fortune. When someone truly wants to leave, they do it quietly. I was done trying to explain myself to her. "Khloe, believe what you want. I've given you the papers. If you don't sign, you can wait to hear from my lawyer." I turned to walk away. Khloe panicked. She lunged and grabbed my arm. "Leo, you want a divorce? Are you insane?" The force of her pull ripped the document folder in my hand. Its contents scattered across the polished floor. My driver, Mike, quickly knelt to help me pick them up. As he gathered the papers, his hand trembled. "Mr. Vance, are you sick?" Khloe's brow twitched. She bent down and snatched the endoscopy report from Mike's hand. Just as she finished reading it, Mike handed her the rest of my scattered medical file. Khloe looked from the papers in her left hand to the ones in her right. "Leo, you're actually sick? What's wrong with your stomach? Why didn't you tell me?" I carefully wiped all traces of pain from my face. "Because you don't love me anymore." Khloe lost it. All her usual composure vanished as she shrieked. "I hired a young assistant, and suddenly I don't love you anymore. Aiden's family is dirt poor, so I help him out a little, and you have to throw this pathetic jealous fit?" "Leo," was becoming more and more dramatic. Her voice echoed in my ears, her face contorting with rage. My vision went black. I coughed, tasting blood, and collapsed. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. The first thing I saw was Aiden's handsome face looming over me. I turned away in disgust. "Get away from me. You reek of cologne and foundation." He had apparently put on makeup to look more haggard. A grown man, wearing foundation and even something to mute the color of his lips. Caught, Aiden slowly backed away, but his eyes started to well up. Mr. Vance, if you really don't like me, I can quit. Why would you curse yourself like this? Your body is a gift from your parents. To think you would lie about having cancer just to get Khloe's sympathy. You'll face karma for this. A sharp pain throbbed in my temple. The one who will face karma is the cheater. From the corner of the room, Khloe's voice cut in. Leo, you really are a vicious man. I laughed, forcing myself to sit up. You're right, Khloe. I'm a vicious man. She had completely forgotten. Years ago, when I turned down the daughter of a wealthy family to be with her, she had kissed me through her tears. Leo, she'd sobbed. You're the kindest man I've ever met. How things change. My love had finally surrendered. I gather my medical files. What's mine I'm taking with me. Either give me the company or cash out my shares for $30 million. I expect you to handle this quickly. From behind me came Aiden's shriek. $30 million? Leo, are you insane? I wasn't insane, but he was about to lose his mind. At 8 o'clock that night, for the first time in a long while, Khloe came home. She was carrying a container of chicken soup. She sat on the dining table, went to the kitchen for a bowl, and filled it to the brim. She brought it to me, her voice gentle. Aiden made this for you. Drink some. It'll help you regain your strength. I gently pushed it away. I'm not drinking it. I'm afraid he poisoned it. My words clearly angered her, but she swallowed it down. She sat next to me and placed a hand on my stomach, rubbing it softly. Don't be angry anymore, honey. I was wrong. Let's not get a divorce. Okay. I'll be with you through your treatment. I stared at her. Didn't Aiden say I was faking it? She looked a little awkward. I spoke to your doctor. You weren't lying. I couldn't help but laugh coldly. So, she still hadn't believed me. She had to go and verify it with the doctor herself before she was willing to accept the truth. I gently moved her hand away and placed a heating pad on my stomach instead. If you fire Aiden, I might consider it. In the past, whenever my stomach hurt, Khloe would rub her hands together to warm them and massage the pain away, just like she was doing now. But that habit had faded over time. Of course, I didn't need it anymore. I had a heating pad. What did I need her for? As expected, she shot to her feet. Leo, can we please just move past this? Aiden was referred by Sarah Jenkins. If I fire him, how am I supposed to explain it to her? Besides, his family is poor. They all depend on his salary. Firing him would be cutting off their lifeline. I took a sip of hot water. The warmth spreading through my stomach was 1,000 times more comforting than this woman. I closed my eyes for a moment, savoring it. Actually, I told her, I was just messing with you. The anger vanished from her face, replaced by a tenderness I hadn't seen in a long time. I looked her straight in the eye. Even if you fire him, I'm still divorcing you. Khloe was completely bewildered. You have stomach cancer. This is when you need someone to take care of you the most. Why are you so insistent on a divorce? She didn't get it. Without love, I, the patient, would sooner or later become a burden in her eyes. I refused to let myself end up in that position. I didn't say anything else. I just hugged my heating pad, held my mug of water, and went to my room. From the living room, I could hear the sound of her pacing back and forth. In the past, I would have listened to the click of her heels on the hardwood floor and tried to guess the depth of her anxiety. But now, I put in my earplugs and within seconds I was asleep. Khloe couldn't understand why I was so determined to divorce her while I was sick, but she knew that once I made up my mind, I wouldn't change it. It was like when I decided to start the company. I was willing to swallow my pride and grovel before clients like a total doormat, but I never once considered giving up. So, when she went back to the office, she started going over the books with the accountant to divide our assets. Then she signed the divorce papers. As I expected, the company was doing too well for her to just walk away from it, to give up her title as CEO. She started taking out loans and borrowing from every source she could find. By the time the mandatory cooling-off period ended, she handed me the deeds to 3 luxury condos and a check for $30 million. The day we officially signed the divorce papers, Aiden came with her. As we walked out of the city hall, Aiden saw my brand new designer suit and sneered at me for being a materialistic, heartless shark. Do you have any idea how many children you could sponsor? How many stray cats you could feed with what you're wearing? You did nothing, just sat around at home all day, and you walk away with tens of millions of Khloe's money. You have some nerve. I didn't say a word. I just punched him twice. His face was once again bruised and swollen. I blew on my knuckles. If the students you sponsor all turn out as shameless as you, it's better not to sponsor them at all. Aiden clutched his face and turned to Khloe for help. No matter how much she hated me, Khloe couldn't attack her brand-new ex-husband in public. She whispered a few comforting words to Aiden, led him to her car, and drove off. I smiled and gave them a little wave. Have a nice life. Their faces twisted in anger. Aiden rolled down the window and yelled, "You have a nice life. You've got stomach cancer. Hope your whole family has a nice life." I wasn't angry. I'm rubber. You're glue. Whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you. I saw a flash of shock on Khloe's face. When we first started dating, we used to say childish things like that all the time. But the playful Leo she fell in love with had died somewhere along the road to building her company. And the Khloe who had once cherished and protected me, she died somewhere in her devotion to Aiden. The day after the divorce, I had the surgery. It was early-stage stomach cancer, no spreading. The operation was a complete success. Lying in my hospital bed, I saw a new Instagram post from Aiden. He had been promoted. He was now Khloe's chief of staff. On his first day, Aiden convinced Khloe to fire several longtime employees who were loyal to me. Among them was Rachel Dawson. When Rachel heard I'd had surgery, she came to visit me, still in shock for being fired. "Leo, do you think Khloe is under some kind of spell? Like, did Aiden brainwash her?" Khloe had always valued talent. Those employees were instrumental in building the company from the ground up. They were all hot-headed and often argued with Khloe until they were red in the face during meetings, but every single one of them treated the company like it was their own. Khloe used to get angry with them, feeling they were riding on their past contributions and disrespecting her as the boss. But I was always there to talk her down. Even though I wasn't physically at the office, I worked hard to maintain a balance among the staff. Now, I was divorced. The skeleton that held everything up had collapsed. Rachel was more confused than angry about being fired. I listened with a smile as she vented, then asked her what her plans were. She said she wanted to take a break and figure it out later. I made her an offer on the spot. "Are you interested in joining my company?" Rachel's eyes lit up. "You're starting a company?" I nodded. I had already contacted a real estate agent to sell the condos. Combined with the $30 million in cash, I'd have close to $50 million to work with. Plus, I now knew how to avoid all the mistakes Khloe and I made the first time around. And with Rachel and the other fired employees bringing their invaluable resources with them, I was confident my path wouldn't be too difficult. Rachel let out a dramatic groan. "Leo, I was really hoping for a vacation. It seems my fate is to be a workhorse." I smiled and waved her on. "Get to it. Your first day is today. Start calling the others right now." I have my principles. I would never actively poach employees from Khloe's current company. But the ones she threw away, those I had to pick up. It was like someone handing you a pillow the moment you feel sleepy. The feeling, I had to admit, was pretty damn good. About 2 weeks into setting up my new company, I got an unexpected call from Khloe. She said she was having some cash flow problems and wanted to know if she could borrow the $30 million back for a short while. I told her I'd consider it and set the meeting for her office. That day, before going upstairs, I had Rachel order dozens of high-end desserts and had them delivered to Khloe's company. The pastries were expensive, and the employees were thrilled. Following Rachel's subtle cues, they all turned to thank me. "Thank you, Mr. Vance. Mr. Vance is so handsome and generous. We hope you make a fortune." Aiden's face was a long, dark storm cloud. He was fuming. He didn't have any new material, so he fell back on his old tricks, whispering to me conspiratorially, "Mr. Vance, you're a little early. Khloe had a rough night. She's at my place catching up on some sleep." Rachel rolled her eyes at him. I, however, was in a great mood. "Oh, was she up all night trying to borrow money?" I asked. Rachel couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. I looked at Aiden's brand new designer suit. "What happened? Did you decide to spend the money Khloe was saving for student sponsorships and stray cats on yourself instead?" Aiden couldn't win a war of words with me and tried to slink away. I sat down in Khloe's executive chair and stopped him. "Aiden, go get me and my assistant 2 cups of coffee." Aiden froze, his face turning the color of a cooked beet. I raised an eyebrow. "What? You don't even know how to make coffee? Isn't that what you do?" Rachel chimed in. "Hurry up. What are you standing there for? We're your boss's honored guests." Aiden stalked out of the room, fuming. When Khloe arrived, she looked exhausted. Her dress was wrinkled, and her jewelry was all wrong. When Aiden saw his protector had arrived, he brought in the 2 cups of coffee, acting as if he'd been grievously wronged. But this time, Khloe had no sympathy for him. "Why the long face?" she snapped. "You look miserable. You're going to sour what little luck I have left. If you weren't so incompetent, the company wouldn't have lost several multi-million-dollar contracts in a row." Overwhelmed with frustration, she swept her arm across her desk, sending everything crashing to the floor. The bear brick figures and matching mug shattered. She roared at Aiden, "Get those pillows off the sofa and replace them now. And the curtains. This whole office looks so cheap. Who would want to partner with me when they see this mess?" Then she turned to me, her tone instantly changing. She calmly explained that if I lent her the money, she would pay a high interest rate and even draw up a formal loan agreement. I told her I'd think about it. Then I stood up to leave. Aiden saw that neither Rachel nor I had touched our coffee. "You made me make you coffee, and you're not even going to drink it?" he demanded, his voice trembling with rage. "Oh," I said, "it didn't look very good. Just throw it out." Aiden's lips turned white. "You didn't even taste it. How do you know it's bad? You're just doing this to mess with me, aren't you?" I shrugged. "Yep, I am. Just like you deliberately went after Khloe when you knew she had a husband, determined to be the other man." I was standing in the doorway. I spoke loudly. All the employees in the outer office started whispering and snickering. The buzz of their conversation was audible. Aiden was so angry he blocked my path. Rachel shoved him. "Move it. Don't make me and Mr. Vance late for our kickboxing class." Aiden jumped back as if he'd been electrocuted. Only then did Khloe seem to process what was happening. She looked at Rachel, standing next to me. "Leo, why is Rachel with you? And why did she call you Mr. Vance?" I smiled. "Because I started my own company. Rachel is my executive assistant now. And I'm sorry, Khloe, but I've already invested that $30 million, so I don't have any money to lend you." The color drained from Khloe's face, leaving it a deathly gray. "Then why did you come here today?" "To watch the show, of course." After nearly 2 months of hard work, my company was up and running. With my dream team of veteran employees, our revenue was soaring. The day our net profit broke $500,000, we celebrated with a team dinner at a hotel. During the dinner, Khloe called me again. She wanted to meet. I knew her company was in dire straits. After she fired the old guard, Aiden continued to wreak havoc. He tried to consolidate his power and improve his image among the remaining staff. But the more he tried, the more they despised him. They mocked him behind his back, and whenever he caught them, he would fly into a rage. The company's decline was an open secret, and many employees had already lost faith. They only stayed out of loyalty to Khloe. But Aiden's constant harassment was the last straw. In the last few months, more than half of her staff had quit. Caught between internal turmoil and external pressures, Khloe was finally breaking. I booked a small private room at the restaurant and ordered a few of her favorite dishes while I waited, including the beef Wellington. When Khloe saw the dish, her eyes filled with tears. Her hand trembled as she picked up her fork. "It's not as good as yours," she whispered. Then she covered her face, and tears streamed through her fingers. She cried for a long time. I watched her in silence, not interrupting. Who would have thought that just a few months ago, she was one of the city's most celebrated entrepreneurs, and now she was so worn down by stress that streaks of gray had appeared in her hair. I sighed and passed her a few tissues. Khloe gave a small, embarrassed smile. "Sorry, Leo. You must be enjoying this. You know, since we divorced, I haven't had a single good night's sleep. When the company started having problems, I was terrified. It made me realize that it wasn't the first time I'd faced storms, but back then, you were by my side, so I was never afraid. Leo, I finally understand how important you were to me." She was a proud woman. Even as she laid her heart bare, she didn't mention getting back together. I think it was partly because she knew I would say no, and partly because she had Aiden now. She had already failed me. She couldn't fail him too. Khloe apologized. "Leo, I need to tell you I'm sorry. It's over, Khloe. There's no need. It's not just about us. It's about the company too." She paused. "I'm sorry, Leo. Our company. I couldn't save it." In the end, the first crack in the foundation was Aiden. Because of Aiden, I had asked for a divorce. To pay me the $30 million, Khloe had over-leveraged herself. The high-interest loans snowballed, crushing her. If the company had been running smoothly, she might have weathered it. But that idiot Aiden had botched several major contracts and driven away her best employees. A single ant-hole can cause the collapse of a great dam. Khloe said she was filled with regret. At first, I just thought he was innocent and pitiful, like an abandoned kitten. He was always making mistakes, which annoyed me. But when he called me his amazing CEO, it triggered this overwhelming desire to protect him. I smiled. Let me summarize it for you. You were a fool. She no longer had the energy to be angry at my insults. She ate a few more bites, and just as we were about to say goodbye, we heard people enter the private room next to ours. We were in an older part of the hotel, and the manager, apologizing for being overbooked, had put us in a room with poor soundproofing. A familiar voice echoed from the next room. It was Sarah Jenkins, the woman who had introduced Aiden to Khloe. Did you guys hear Khloe Sterling is going under? A few other people laughed. I heard her luck turned sour right after her divorce. Goes to show, her husband must have been her good luck charm. Didn't they split because of some new male assistant she hired? Sarah's triumphant voice rose again. Let me tell you something. That assistant, Aiden Reed, he used to be my boy. Khloe froze, then slowly sat back down. Sarah continued, laughing as she spoke. The kid is gorgeous, real campus heartthrob material, but his family was dirt poor. I was walking down the street one day, and he was handing out flyers. I gave him my card, and that very night, he called me and ended up in my bed. Don't let the innocent face fool you. He knows all the tricks. He was great. But the kid got greedy. After 2 years, he started pushing me to divorce my husband for him. Can you believe the nerve? I was trying to figure out how to get rid of him without causing a scene, and then it hit me. I waited for him to graduate and sent him over to Khloe. And Khloe, well, she's a famous beauty. It didn't even take 2 months before Aiden broke up with me himself and warned me never to mention our past. It was exactly what I wanted. Every time I think about Khloe picking up a man I was practically done with, I just feel so satisfied. So, Aiden really was an abandoned kitten. Abandoned, that is after Sarah Jenkins had had her fun with him. Khloe picked up the heavy teapot from our table and walked straight into the room next door. The pot shattered, followed by Sarah's scream. I didn't go over to break up the fight. I just stood up and went back to my company celebration dinner. Khloe ended up in a holding cell. When she was released 2 weeks later, she filed for bankruptcy. Halfway through the proceedings, something terrible happened. She was driving with Aiden in the car and went straight off an overpass. They both died. When she died, Khloe was pregnant. She left a letter for me. It contained only 2 words. I'm sorry. Rachel sighed, shaking her head. Khloe really must have given up on life. She couldn't even bring herself to write more than that. I shook my head. Maybe there were too many apologies to write. I guess that's true, Rachel conceded. We walked out of the office, building on our way to Khloe's funeral. Rachel took an umbrella out of her bag. Mr. Vance, I think you forgot this. Good thing I always remember. I shook my head and pulled my own umbrella from my briefcase. So many people are like Khloe. They only remember the umbrella they left in the corner after they're already caught in the rain. Fortunately, Rachel and I aren't those kinds of people. Like me, Khloe had no living parents or family. I had arranged our wedding. Now, I arranged her funeral, but I didn't buy her a burial plot. I scattered her ashes into the river. Rachel asked me why. I put my arm around her waist. Khloe couldn't trap me in life, and she won't trap me in death with a grave. I don't want to spend a day every year visiting her tombstone. My time, I said, looking at Rachel, belongs to people who know how to cherish me.